All right, I'd like to call the regularly scheduled Planning Commission meeting to order. Please note all commissioners are present. And if you could please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Ludden. That brings us to the public comments section. I'm not seeing anyone wanting to comment on something not on the agenda. So that brings us to the consent calendar. And before anyone makes a motion, I would like to discuss it last, if anyone else has a comment. Anyone want to make a comment? All right. I just thought in the minutes we would could add on the 5th paragraph, starting with Planning Commission discussion, and this is just my, I'll make a motion that we add toward the end of that sentence, maybe take out "and" the use of retaining walls, and just take out "and," put a comma there, put a comma after walls, and say OSA traffic study, parking, and traffic mitigation measures. Just to kind of add a little bit more. I think that we kind of added, we had some discussion around those items.
I will second the motion.
Well, there wasn't a motion.
Yeah, no, yeah, sorry. My motion, I would motion that we amend the item to include those items and for approval.
How about if I motion to approve the minutes with the included additions?
That sounds good too.
I will second the motion that was moved.
Oh,
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you for that. Oh, are we voting? All right, motion passes.
I'm so sorry.
So that brings us to the public hearing portion of the agenda. Agenda item number 2. I believe we have a staff report.
Yes, Ron Santos has a staff report this evening.
Good evening, Chairman Hamilton and members of the Planning Commission. This item is a request to amend a previously approved site development permit for the Highlands residential tract in order to establish a 3-foot minimum property line setback for air conditioner condenser units in lieu of the 4-foot minimum required by the governing document, which is the Baker Ranch Plant Community. The Highlands Tract, which is part of the larger Shea Baker development, consists of 80 single-family homes, approximately 24 of which are currently under construction, located northeast of the intersection of Alton Parkway and Commerce Center Drive. By reducing the minimum setback to 3 feet as proposed, Toll Brothers, the project developer, would have the flexibility to place each home's air conditioner unit in either the rear yard or either of the 5-foot wide side yards. If placed in the side yard, special slimline condenser units would be used, which are only 1 foot 6 inches wide, thus allowing them to achieve the 3-foot minimum setback within the 5-foot space. The applicant has cited the desire to preserve as much of the usable rear yard area as possible on each lot as the primary reason for the request. As noted in the staff report, the requested 3-foot minimum setback is consistent with the standard that is applicable in all other areas of the city outside of the Baker Ranch plant community. Additionally, previous to this request, the Planning Commission has approved a 3-foot alternative development standard for 3 other tracts in the Shea Baker Ranch project area. Accordingly, approval of this request would not result in a unique or unusual circumstance citywide. Additionally, the request is consistent with the criteria listed in the Baker Ranch Plan Community text for approval of an alternative development standard, as detailed in the draft resolution. On that basis, staff is recommending approval of the application, which includes reapproval of the original 80-unit development project as proposed and subject to the original conditions of approval of the site development permit. That concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions the Commission may have.
So any questions from the Commission?
How much quieter is the slimline unit as opposed to the regular condensing unit that they would install?
The applicant provided some noise specifications on that for our file, but it's difficult to explain that in terms that aren't that someone other than an acoustical engineer would understand. The applicant might be able to give us some better sort of relative terms, in terms of the noise standard, comparing it to other noise sources.
Yeah, Chairman Hamilton and Commissioners, my name is Frank Shen. I'm a project manager for Toll Brothers for Highlands at Baker Ranch. And to answer your question, Commissioner Lutton, the noise study has been commissioned by the AC provider, has provided a report to Ron, and has been consistent with all the other ones that have been provided in the past and been approved. So hopefully that answers your question.
Are they a little bit quieter? Are they significantly quieter, since you're now putting it right up against somebody's bedroom window? And
Right, it is quieter, and it's more quieter than the unit we're putting in right now. So,
Okay.
Commissioner, in more general terms, what the information that was provided to us concluded is that the 1 foot difference in the setback between what the code requires now and what the applicant's requesting wouldn't have a noticeable difference in terms of the noise level to the neighbors.
Well, I wouldn't think the 1 foot setback would do it, but the change in location would. And that was the reason. I mean, if it's out facing the backyard, that's one thing. If it's sitting between 2 walls and bedrooms on both sides, that's a little bit different situation. So that's why I kind of asked the question. I'm presuming it's quiet enough that they're not worried that it's going to impact their sales of houses. But I mean, somebody's got to live with it when it's running all summer long. So that was my reason for my question, is that you got a wall between it. You got, unless there's a fair amount of landscaping there, it seems to me like you still got a fair chance that noise bounces between the walls and the wall between them, to create a certain amount of.
Sure, yeah. I mean, that was something that we were discussed at one time, and because of that, the slimline units are quieter because of that placement. So there's a graph that was provided to staff, depending on distance, with the attenuation of the decibels as moved further, and that is a quieter unit than the one that's been placed standard in the rear yard. So.
Well, that's good. Well, thank you very much. You've answered my question.
Any other Commission comments or questions?
My question is geared more towards legal staff, I think, but I know that we've already, as Ron pointed out and is in the staff report, we've already dealt with this issue in several other tracts within the greater Shea Baker community. And I don't think, based on what's presented to us, that I can do what I want to do. So if I was to bring a motion to simply amend the Shea Baker planned community text down to 3 feet instead of 4, so it's in line with the rest of the city, that would have to be a separate agenda notice and everything. It couldn't be done tonight, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I'd like to request that we consider that possibility.
If I could give some information on that. The applicant, the area plan is actually the document where these standards are in, and so it could be proposed by the property owner. The city, our planning division, about on an annual basis does a cleanup of zoning ordinance stuff, and so we would include that along with a host of other little things that have come up over the year. If they would like to move sooner than that, they could bring forth their own zone change, but we will add it to our list, and we'll be bringing forth a code amendment in the future to clean up all of those things.
Thank you. It just seemed like otherwise we're going to be here every 6 weeks with the same question on a different track.
Any other commissioner questions?
I'd just like to thank Ron for answering my questions earlier in the week, and thank you.
Yeah, I have a comment, and I think it's relevant to what Commissioner Ludden just talked about. I do have a slimline unit in my own home, but it's about 7 years old, so the technology might be a little different than it is now. It's not overly noisy, but I can tell when it's on. But it's on the side of my house because I didn't want it in my backyard either. So, I mean, it just made good sense from that standpoint. I don't have an issue with moving for this approval because ultimately the builder carries the responsibility, the financial responsibility with regard to that. And I know in previous, when we've had this before, I think the design, the layouts, the way the homes were positioned on the lots, there wasn't any windows on the sides where we approved the smaller setback. Is that, I mean, I hate to come at, I don't either. I'm glad to ask the question.
Yeah.
Can you assure us to some degree? Again, you guys, it's your project. You know, you're the ones that have got the money, and you're the ones that are going to suffer for it if it doesn't go well with your buying audience. But is that the case here on the ones where we're going to be there? Is that the homes are going to not line up so that we have that kind of a position? Can you kind of give us some feedback on that?
Yeah, absolutely. We staggered the homes on purpose to accommodate. We do install these units right next to a stairwell where there are no windows present. So that has been thought out before we pre-plotted these units.
Yeah, well, I figured that would be the case. It's been the case in the past, so thank you. Does that help?
Yeah.
Great.
I wanted to make sure I got your name right. Mr. Frank Chen?
That's correct.
If you don't mind filling out a speaker's card, just, you've been speaking at the dais there. So, any other comments from the commission? All right, if not, I'll open the public hearing. And this is a public hearing. We've talked in the past. People get 3 minutes to speak. Public has the right to speak. I can see there's a large line forming. So any public speakers, anything you want to add? Okay. So that means it comes back to the commission. Any comments? Additional questions?
Well, as I said, I don't have a problem with this at all. And unless I hear anything coming up, I just move staff's recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. I'll close the public hearing. And I guess we can take our little boxes and vote. All in favor? Resolution passes 5-0. Congratulations. So there's no discussion items tonight. I think that takes us to director comments.
I have no comments this evening.
And comments from the city attorney.
None tonight.
It comes back to the commission for comments.
I'd like to thank Ron for another well-written report, and it's nice to see you again. And to just officially announce to everybody, I did finally get transferred by Pickup Sticks so that I'm working here at home. I'm managing the Foothill Ranch location now. And so I would invite you all, including the viewing audience out there in cyberspace, to come down and have lunch. You buy lunch, and I'll chat with you on any topic you want.
Well, I guess we're going to move in this direction. I don't really have any comments. Thank you very much. Oh, I do have one comment. I want to wish everybody a happy Easter.
Well, we had a great mayor's breakfast that we were there in force, all of us, and it was a fun time in our baseball uniforms. And I even got an autographed ball from that wonderful guest speaker that we had, Bobby Gritch. So thank you, Mayor, for inviting us all and for having a fun morning out.
I wanted to thank Ron for a very well-written report. That was very helpful, and I appreciate you doing that. Mr. Chen, thank you for coming and answering my questions, and appreciate your being here. It's kind of a difficult situation when the houses are on such small lots to deal with things like air conditioners, and I can certainly understand why nobody wants it in their backyard. And that's why I asked the question, because I think the slimline was probably the only valid solution that was out there. And but I always get concerned when things are that close to a neighbor's yard that noise isn't a problem. We lived with that for a long time. Where we have now, our neighbor had a particularly noisy one. For 20 years we listened to it. So I'm kind of sensitive to things like that. But I think you've done the right thing. And the fact that you've made an effort to position the houses in a way where you minimize that noise, I think is also very good. I think that's a credit to your company that you've done that. And, thanks for the reports. I think it was everything. I think the best thing was done tonight.
I guess I'm going to go last. I want to thank staff for all the work on the good report, the applicant for coming and explaining, and the comments from the I think, and the discussion we had. So happy Easter, everyone, and I definitely enjoyed the mayor's, what was that thing called?
Mayor's breakfast.
The mayor's breakfast. That too. So with that, we are adjourned.